Welcome to a presentation by Hive 80, an online community for health, wellness, and medicine. Pet health is a big part of Hive 80. Through this video, our goal is to provide trusted, expert information to all pet owners. We have here with us veterinarian Jeff Johnson to answer some of the most frequently asked questions by pet owners.
That's a question I hear a lot, and I hear a lot from my friends too about, how do we choose a vet. I think the first thing I would do is look for a veterinary clinic that's nearby where you live, so you're not traveling too far with your animals. I think everyone has their favorite vet from at some point, and some people want to travel far, but I think that puts a little bit of stress on the animals for the car ride. So look close, and I think word of mouth is probably the best way to find a vet. Ask your friends, your family, your neighbors. Find out who they go to and what they like about the veterinary clinic, and the veterinarians at the clinic. And I think it's important to find a veterinarian that you communicate well with, that you have a good rapport, because even if the veterinarian has the education, the skills, communication is really important, that you guys mesh well together, so that way the veterinarian can explain everything about the visit. The number of an animal is one thing, and I think when we're looking at whether it's a dog or a cat, we don't want to necessarily just look at the number, but we want to actually put our hands on the animal and feel the body condition of the animal. So you want to be able to feel the ribs of the animal, and you want to be able to count the number of ribs. And as you move your hand back, you should feel that the belly is thinner than the chest cavity itself. So that is kind of the first sign that the animals that are just a tube, they're probably overweight. You want to be able to feel the spine, feel the hips. When you start losing the capability to do that, and then we know that they're overweight. And when I talk about the animals that are overweight, what I say is, well, we know what we're feeding them now, so we know we need to feed them less. I'm not necessarily going to give you a particular number to say, hey, this is our goal weight, but I'm going to say, depending on how overweight I feel the animal is, let's get down just a little bit. Let's reduce the food by 10% of the caloric intake, and then let's reevaluate again. So that way it's kind of a constant readjustment, and we're not overshooting it or starving our animals because we want them to lose weight. We want to do it nice and gradual, just like the time it took them to get to that point where they are overweight. We want to reverse it and back again. Maybe not quite as long, but not too quickly. I think in general, the safest way to feed our animals to make sure that they're getting everything they need is to use a commercial diet, and rely on trusting that company and the formulation of that food to have everything that is needed for the animals. I think when we start adding everything, we're kind of washing out the balance of the commercial diets. And then picking commercial diets is extremely overwhelming. You go to a pet store, there's hundreds of foods, and it's just shelf after shelf. I think if you stick with one of those brands that you've heard of that have been around for 25, 30 plus years, that may be a good start. Not to say that there aren't other diets that haven't been around as long that are going to be good, but sometimes it's hard to know if they're missing something, and sometimes the future you'll find out that it wasn't formulated the way we want. And then when I look at the bag of food, you want to make sure that it says it's complete and balanced diet, so that way you know that that's going to be okay to use as the sole food for the animal. And usually if you look under the ingredients list, there's a statement by AAFCO that will say that it's been formulated to meet the nutritional needs of the animals. And some foods have actually undergone the feeding trials according to the procedures by AAFCO. And that can be a little harder to find on the label of these pet foods. And sometimes you have to call the companies to see whether they actually have those feeding trials that have been done. And if you can do that homework with that food, I think you should be pretty confident that that food's going to be safe and everything that your animal needs. A lot of people think that dogs would be considered senior when they're about 7 years. I kind of feel as I'm seeing the animals, probably 10 years is when I start thinking that they're undergoing some changes. And yeah, I mean 7 to 10 is probably a transition zone for dogs. For cats, I would say more like 12 is when I start thinking about some of the other issues that cats can have. Yeah, that's a great question. So for the younger animals that are healthy, that at home we don't see that we don't have any concerns at home once a year for both dogs and cats. And frequently we do find, it may not be a major thing, but we usually find things that we can talk about. Dental health is a big one, or we'll find that the animals have an ear infection that they weren't necessarily showing any signs of, but would be a month or so later. So we'll try to find those issues before they start becoming a big problem. For our older cats, cats and dogs, probably every 6 months would be better. That way we can address concerns. Things tend to happen a little quicker as the animals are getting older, whether it's heart disease, heart murmurs, or growths that the animals are having. So I think if we jump on that a little bit more often than once a year, it would be better for the animals.
For more information like this, please join us at hive80.com, an online community for health, wellness, and medicine.
This has been a presentation of Hive80, who holds the copyright thereto.